What would happen if a boss is disrespected to the point of humiliation? Let's have a look. Whether someone's an official or acting boss, they represent the leadership of a family and typically are treated with the utmost respect. But this is not always the case, as we'll see. During the early 1990s, the Lucchese family's leadership was decimated. Initially, the bosses became fugitives and were eventually captured. In this time period, the family was led by a series of panels and acting bosses. As we know, up until late 1991, Al Diaco was the acting boss, and following his departure, the family was controlled by a ruling panel. In and around 1993, Vicar Musso appointed Joe Defede, his former handball partner, to the acting boss position. Numerous online misfacts have this time period between 1994 and 1995. I believe this to be incorrect. There are certain stories I was told took place in late 1993, with Defede being the acting boss. Defede at one time was in Frankie Lastarino's crew, and then he was made a captain of Paul Vario's old crew, and Lastarino eventually became part of the family's administration and also sat on several panels. In the summer of 1993, and for the sake of argument, Defede, an acting boss, or at the very least a captain, experienced a degrading incident. Let me first offer a little background. During the 1980s, Spiro the Greek Valencius and his criminal organization, which operated out of Astoria, Queens, became associated to the Lucchese family, specifically to Christy Ticfaneri. So there's always been ties between the Luccheses and the Greeks. Originally, Faneri had Gaspipe dealing with them, but Gaspipe handed that responsibility over to Pete Chiodo, who was a captain in the family. The agreed-upon arrangement was that the Greeks pay tribute, $10,000, on a monthly basis to the Lucchese family. Back in the summer of 1993, Defede began dealing with the Greeks, who were operating horse rooms, joker poker machines, as well as dice and card games. Around this time, Spiro the Greek was sentenced to life plus 25 years after a trial that Pete Chiodo testified in. So one day, Defede goes to Astoria to collect the monthly $10,000, but things don't go smoothly at all. One of the Greeks decided that they were no longer going to pay the Lucchese family, pulled a gun on Defede, ordered him to his knees, and made him beg for his life in front of everyone present. Naturally, Defede did as he was told and was permitted to leave with his life, minus the $10,000. He reported back to the Luccheses and told them what happened. Their first reaction was to go to Astoria and kill whoever did this. But cooler heads prevailed, because at the time, Spiro the Greek was in prison with Vicar Musso, and word was sent to Vic regarding the incident. Consequently, he and Spiro agreed upon a solution. The Greeks would have to apologize and pay a fine besides the owed $10,000. Spiro sent a message to his people, letting them know what was decided. The meeting with the Greeks would take place on Lucchese territory, which was Avenue S and West 6th Street in the Gravesend section of Brooklyn, home of the All Nations Social Club, which belonged to Lucchese member Angelo Defendis. Defendis was a former middleweight boxer who fought under the name The Bomber. He won the Golden Gloves and the Amateur Athletic Union Championship. And there's a well-known story regarding that club. Jimmy Heidel, who came from the area, would go around the club and cause trouble outside, which caused Defendis to yell at him a few times. Heidel was often with his dog, a Doberman Pinscher, a dog that became aggressive with all the yelling. On one of these occasions, Defendis was yelling at Heidel, and the commotion caused Gaspipe to come out of the club. He also began yelling at Heidel, and of course, the dog continued barking. Supposedly, Gaspipe warned Heidel to control the dog, but the dog, now in a frenzy, tried to bite Defendis. At this point, Gaspipe pulled out a pistol and shot and killed the dog. Keep in mind, this is the same Heidel who was part of the three-man hit team that attempted to kill Gaspipe on September 14, 1986, and the person Gaspipe had delivered to him in mid-October 1986 when he tortured and killed him. It's not far-fetched to say, besides being ordered to hit Gaspipe, Heidel must have reveled in the fact that he could get revenge on the person who killed his dog, although Heidel didn't accomplish the task and winded up joining his dog. Personally, unless it was a life-or-death situation, I can't see killing a dog. Anyway, On the day of the meeting with the Greeks, the Luccheses were prepared for the worst-case scenario. Just because the Greek was supposed to come and apologize didn't mean things would go peacefully. Aside from Defendis and Defede, Lucchese captain Giorgi Conti and member Frankie Gioia were in the club with pistols. It was Conti who stood in for Gioia's captain, Giorgi Neck, during Gioia's induction 2 years earlier. The Luccheses also had a stolen car parked outside the club in case the meeting went sideways. They had every intention to kill the Greeks if things didn't go according to plan. But when the Greeks showed up, the offending Greek did apologize to Defede, as well as hand over money. I've heard from several people that Defede could be nasty and often had an attitude. When his car got a flat in Howard Beach one day, instead of getting it towed, he had Bubsy come from Brooklyn to change the tire. But his time as an acting boss ended in April 1998 when he was indicted for extortion of the New York Garment District. The Lucchese family had been taking in about $500,000 a year from the Garment Center. While Defede was in prison, Vic began to suspect that he had skimmed more than $1 million of Lucchese money. And when Defede was released in February 2002, he learned that Vic ordered him to be killed, and he began cooperating. Defede would live out the remainder of his life in the Witness Protection Program until his death in July 2012. Please remember to like this video if you haven't already. And for anyone who wants to show their appreciation for videos like this, or more crucially, help me take a stand against the sabotaging of this podcast, you can do so by the Super Thanks icon down below or the PayPal Cash App links in the video's description. Let's analyze a few things. To start with, do you know the significance of an acting boss, or for the naysayers, a captain for that matter, to go collect money and have someone humiliate them by ordering them at gunpoint to their knees and adding insult to injury, making them beg for their life? I always mention, as a member, your actions are not only a representation of you, but your family as well. So if the acting boss is getting abused, it's a mockery of the entire family. Definitely not a good story to have floating around the street, as it makes the family appear weak. To be honest, I'm surprised Vic kept Defede in the position after this took place. But here's what astonishes me even more. In the past, Vic has had his own family members killed or marked for death, which is a fact. Many of these deaths or attempts were either based on assumptions or out-and-out false allegations. Vic is someone who participated in attempting to kill John Gotti for killing the boss of a family and not that of the Lucchese family. He also killed a member of his own family on the request of Totorina, a boss in Sicily. Yet in this case, a Greek totally abuses someone that you put in a position, and you agree to an apology and some money as the repercussion. It makes no sense. Based on Vic's past performance, he's always displayed being uncompassionate since taking over the family. Why would he let a Greek, of all people, get away so easily? It's one of the many unanswered questions, as well as debatable decisions, that were made in that life. But there's one thing for certain. The treachery, especially within the Lucchese family, remains unshakable and constant.